Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 9 of Wotakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku. I am so excited for this episode. This series has been so much fun. I have really enjoyed it, and the only comment I have is from HBanana7 for episode 7, who said, Yuki Kaji, who voices Now, has an amazing range, not only in acting, but in voice acting as well. He was Shion from number 6, and that's probably more akin to Now's Sweet Bean type. I forgot he was Shion. Straight up forgot he was Shion. I watched number 6 like I don't know how many years ago, but that all makes sense now. I think I watched it before I got into Attack on Titan and Ace of the Diamond, so it was probably one of the earlier roles that I saw him in. But yeah, I definitely agree. That's probably more of his type. And then I also like the subversion of gender norms of girls being the mature ones. Now, I don't know. I've seen a lot of anime where the girls are not the mature ones, so I don't know if I would connect to that. But I do like the idea of the guys in this series, as H Banana says, being mature and handling uncomfortable situations. Usually I see the reverse of that. I've seen mature girls, I've seen immature girls in anime, but usually, especially in shonen, the guys are kind of like, oh, I don't know how to handle this situation. And here it's refreshing to see the guys being able to do so, while the girls are fangirling over their ships. I relate so hard with the shipping wars. Yeah, I definitely am a shipper, and so that part of episode 7 I really liked a lot. So yeah. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out over to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, because we've got a new member for it, so I want to get that right. But thank you to everybody on Patreon that supports my channel. I really appreciate all of your support. If you aren't able to be on Patreon, you can like this video, comment, subscribe to my channel. That supports me as well, for free, might I add. But if you want to support me on the channel and help give me a shout out and a little extra love, you are welcome to do so. I really appreciate it. And so our philanthropy tier over on Patreon, I've got a list of them right here. They give me extra support each month, and I am so appreciative and grateful for it. So I want to give a shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Be Happy, to Dana, to Damage3245, to Devorin, to Destiny Marie, to Daniel, to Ichu, Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, El Freya, Lyndon, Murphew, Willie Morris, James, as well as Sunspots Shimoyama, Daniel, Diana Williams, Nicholas, Sean, James N, as well as Rose Jennison. Thank you all so much for your support. I greatly appreciate it. All of my love. So yeah, I don't have much else to say before we get started in this, but I'm really excited. I don't know. We're on episode 9, so tis the question of where we're going to in these final 3 episodes. We're in the last act now, so we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you so much for joining me. We are going to get started with episode 9 of Wotakoi, Love is Hard for an Otaku, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see you all on the other side. This was honestly such a cute episode. I really liked this episode so much. I'm trying to get to where my mic can get me the most. There we go. Maybe that's it. Yeah. So this was such a cute episode. I had honestly almost forgot about the date at the beginning. I was like, wait, what are we doing this episode? And then there we are. What I'm really glad about is that this series took its time to kind of talk about, because I don't think Narumi has been worried about the whole dating thing. Narumi is like, Narumi's like, I know you, you know me, we grew up together, but the reason why those other boyfriends didn't work out is I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I like that what they did with the piggy bank at the end was they collected all the otaku moments, and then he's like, okay, now we can go buy souvenirs with the money that we saved up from that. Because I honestly wanted to see how much it was. I was like, how many thousands of yen did they put into this piggy bank? But okay, talking about their, I didn't even notice the pierced ears. I didn't notice because I've not been paying attention to Narumi's ears the whole time. But the fact that girl wearing clip-ons, I don't know if you've ever wore clip-on earrings before. I don't know if you've wore clip-on earrings before. I have. I didn't get my ears pierced until I was 18. And that's only because I'm phobic with needles. I hate the idea of needles. I don't like them. And so I was like, I am not jabbing a needle through my ear, even though people were like, it's fine. So my junior year of prom, I wore clip-on earrings because I didn't want to. My ears were so red, so sore, so raw. I was so miserable. I took my earrings off like 2 hours into prom. And then I was like, if I want to wear earrings, I guess I'll get them pierced. And now I only wear earrings like occasionally just to keep, as Hirotaka found out, just to keep the holes from closing up. That's literally the only reason that I have earrings and wear them sometimes is to keep the ears from closing up. Because I'm like, I may want to wear earrings at some point. I can't have those ears closing up and redo it. So no. But yeah, I didn't even notice. And then we'll talk about the earrings at the end of this. But her fashion, I would wear what Narumi was wearing in a heartbeat. I would cosplay as her at a con with the turtleneck, with the necklace, with the denim jacket, with the skirt and the Converse shoes. I would cosplay as her in a heartbeat. I love that. That's so good. I loved her outfit. And Hirotaka's casual wear, super cute. I thought he looked very handsome. I thought it was great. Also, then were some dang long churros. Also, the the sexual innuendo with the churros. I was like, ah! I was like, should we be knowing about that? So that was really funny. I liked that a lot. But yeah, so I also appreciated that he let her pay for the churros. I appreciate that Hirotaka is not the type of boyfriend. I feel like Kabakura would be like the type of boyfriend that would be like, I need to pay for everything. Let me do it. I'm the supervisor. I got money. It's fine. But I mean, I'm for equal opportunity here. So as much as I'm like, oh, thank you for paying. If I want to pay for something, it's fine. It's cool. It's a date. You should each pay for different things. It's totally cool. But yeah, so, and I like that Hirotaka kind of notices that Narumi, I'm kind of like Narumi in the fact that I am an occasion dresser, whatever fits the occasion. So he's like time, place, occasion, and the primary colors. I love that. And it shows her like her fashion when they're going to like the yaoi convention versus the date versus work. I know some people have an aesthetic and they keep to that aesthetic. I feel like I still have my own aesthetic, but I very much dress for the occasion that is being performed. So like, for example, when I'm doing reactions, I feel like I can wear like a t-shirt like this. Sometimes when I get off work, I feel really done up and I'm like, oh, I want to wear what I wore to work for the reaction, and I'll do that. But oftentimes I'm just wearing this. Now, I don't wear this to work because that's not appropriate for work. I have like, usually you all have seen what I've worn in some reactions. It's a little bit more done up and casual, business casual. But I do that. And then like if you go to a banquet or something, or you have to dress up, I've wore a suit before or a dress. Like I feel like you can have your own personal style, but still dress for the occasion. So Narumi's point, I'm very like adequate in. And also Narumi kind of demonstrates, in social settings, she can adjust. So yeah, I don't geek out with a lot of my coworkers because they don't get it. And that's just not appropriate for place of work, right? Now, if I'm with students and I see they're wearing like a Cowboy Bebop hoodie or a one piece hoodie, I'm like, hey, I know that, because I want them to know that I relate. I understand what they like. I kind of think that's important, especially if you're helping students. As a teacher, you should definitely be on that. And I've talked about Pokemon in class. It's like the one time I got a bad course evaluation. Some girl was like, she talked about Snorlax for an hour. And I was like, it was 10 minutes and deal. A girl had a Snorlax tattoo. It was relevant. It needed to be discussed. So... But yeah, one thing is though, that I'm glad Hirotaka realizes he is bound and determined to try and get their relationship to go to the next level, because he thinks that that's what is expected. That's what needs to happen. He thinks, oh, well, this needs to happen because we're boyfriend and girlfriend. We need to meet and check off these boxes. And I like that by the end of the episode, he kind of realizes, oh, no, this is not, we don't have to do it this way. We can go at our own pace. We can slow down. We can be different. Because when they're standing there in line, for example, and they don't have anything to talk about, it's like they both have a shared interest. Let them talk about that. Like, I feel the best relationships are built off of you having a bond with that person and having something to relate to with that person. And why would you deprive yourself of that? He thinks it's because it's friend zoning them. But I think it's important to know that Narumi likes that. She's like, I dumped those other guys because I couldn't relate to them and because it didn't go any further than we're on this date. But she's like, I couldn't be myself. And the fact that she can be herself around Hirotaka, we'll talk about it by the end, but it opens up for the possibility of her being able to not only, get more acquainted with Hirotaka, but also because she can be herself, she feels comfortable with exploring like the gifts and things like that. So we'll talk about that here briefly. There's a little bit of sexual innuendo with them churros, right? I do like that she was considerate, and she's like, I know you don't like sweets, so I got the chocolate flavor. And he's like, you just wanted them both. And she was like, well, kind of. I also, turn the sound off. I also love, I'm assuming it's a JoJo's reference. That line art is like strictly JoJo's, right? But I love it. She's like, I did everything I could to switch over to non-Otaku mode. I feel like the one is JoJo's on when she's talking to Hirotaka. The one is JoJo's. The one is, I think it's Kaiji. Is it Kaiji? I feel like it's Kaiji, which I'm all about that. I grew up watching shonen. So when she talks about having to like read shoujo manga and stuff, I felt kind of sad for Narumi because it's one thing if you like shoujo, like I read shoujo and shonen. I read both. If I like the story and I like the characters, I don't care what genre it is, to be honest, as long as it's got characters and a story that I like. But I hate the idea of someone trying to conform to meet what someone else wants. Like, that's just really sad to me. I'm like, it makes me sad. It makes me sad. So yeah. And they're like, that's not how a girl who reads shoujo should look. And she's like, well, that's weird. She's like, I've never hidden it from you before, but I guess I let my guard down and got careless. So he's like, let's just act normal today. So I like that they try to act normal and like themselves, but they keep like the otaku jar just to be safe. Also him like biting the churro in her hand. I was like, or her doing that with his churro. I was like, It was a cute little romantic moment. I liked that. But also, yeah, the piggy bank moment, that may be the thumbnail because it's just so funny. Him holding this cutesy piggy bank. Oh my gosh. Yeah, okay, she bit the churro that was his. And they held hands in that moment. She's like, get ready to go broke. Super cute. All right, we'll skip the OP. So yeah, I like that she called him out, was like, you can't talk about games if I can't talk about anime, because games are otaku as well. But them standing in line, just waiting there, it's difficult for them both. And I like the fact that she is observant and realizes when he's kind of stressed or, uncomfortable or having a hard time. And the fact that he wanted to talk about the character of the anime and then he stopped himself. At that point, I'm like, see, you two want to talk to each other and you want to further that conversation and further that relationship, but you feel like you can't because of the restrictions that these societal norms are placing on you having a date. And I loved the message of this episode because I feel like, especially with social media, especially with TikTok, especially with things like that, we are pressured as a society to think that there are certain like steps to have a perfect relationship. And that's just not it. Everybody's relationship is going to be a little bit different. And it can be as individualized as we are people. And so Narumi and Hirotaka having a relationship where they're more friendly with each other and they're like besties and it just is elevated from that, that may work for them. That may work perfect for them. It may not work, like their type of relationship may not work for Kabakura and Hanako, but their Koyanagi and Kabakura's relationship may not work and will not work for Narumi and Hirotaka. So I like the message that adult relationships don't always have to be this like cookie cutter that one person does, the other person doesn't have to follow it, right? So it's super cute. I love, she's like, there's lots of topics we can talk about. Like that ride. And he's like, I'm going to cry. I feel him. I do think it's interesting. He notes that as she's like leading him around to places, he's like, this is just like it was before. And I'm so glad that Hanako in the haunted house ride, she's like, well, yeah, like, would you have it any other way? You've established you're not the type of guy that like leads around and is dominant. So would you want a girl that's like relying upon you to make all the moves? Probably wouldn't work out. So just saying, it probably wouldn't work out. You'd probably need somebody like her. It's just super cute. I was trying to see now if we could see Kabakura and Hanako, but I don't think we noticed them until the haunted house ride, which in a sea of monochrome haired individuals, Kabakura and Hanako Koyanagi stand out quite significantly. I only remember the haunted house ride. I went to Disney when I was 10, back when Disney was fun, and the haunted house ride was great back then, but I would never go back to Disney now. It's just too commercial. It's too commercialized. It's like too hyper capitalist for me anymore. But yeah, so to be fair, I do think Narumi should have looked back. I think that's the one thing. If Narumi could build upon anything with her relationships, it's the fact that she is always under the impression that Hirotaka will always follow her. And she can just grab him by the hand and lead him, and he'll come no matter what. And I feel like occasionally she needs to look back and make sure he's okay. And for the most part, she does. But like here on the ride, she just grabbed somebody's hand and took him to the ride. And the moment I saw that tan skin, I'm like, oh, it's Kabakura. It has to be. Also, I love the fact that you have Hirotaka and Koyanagi, who are not scared of the ride. They're just like this the whole time in the Haunted Mansion ride. And then you have Narumi and Kabakura, who are terrified and screaming. Hearing Kabakura's voice actor being all high-pitched and screaming was so satisfying. I loved it so much. That was so much fun. I adore that moment. That was great. But yeah, and the facial expressions just absolutely hilarious. So good. And I like Koyanagi's I like for this episode, it shows a little growth on Koyanagi because she wasn't mad that Kabakura left. She was just like, well, he got taken, so what can you do? But she just accepted it, and then it ended up working out that her and Hirotaka got to have a talk. She's like, I was jealous, so I begged him to take me, and we just, happened to end up at this ride. Also, I think it's hilarious that Narumi and Hirotaka, and Kabakura rather, are just screaming at each other, and they're like, well, I know it's scary. It's so funny. It's a nice thing to show that you need balance in your friendships, because if you're all just screaming, it's like you need somebody there as an anchor, right? And he's like, I don't understand you. And she's like, you stood in line. You're wasting if you don't look. And he's like, So she's like, how's it going? And honestly, whenever Hirotaka gets the dead-eyed expression and he doesn't think anything has changed, I'm glad that Hanako's like, well, yeah, that's just how you all are. It's okay. Also, super proud that Narumi, she's like, no, I'm not going to grab your hand, Kabakura, because I don't like you. I love that. I love that she's like, I'm not going to grab a hold of this guy that's not my boyfriend because that's not cool. Love that. I love that the body language, even though they had to point it out to us. I don't know why I'm assuming it's just a gag manga, so they just pointed it out. But I'm like, they were going to talk about it anyway, so you really didn't have to. She's like, I didn't want to hold your hand by mistake. And then he ends up doing the same thing. We stand for respectful couples, y'all. We stand for it. And she's like, and Hanako, it goes back to her and Hirotaka. She's like, it's okay if you guys take it slow. And it's just the speed that fits you both. It's fine. She's like, I would love to see you be a little bit more lovey-dovey and for you to kiss her on the way home or anything. But honestly, I like that there was a part of me that felt like it was such a tease at the end where he was going to kiss her and then he ended up hugging her. But the other part of me is happy that it went that way because I feel like if he had kissed her, it would have been him kind of compromising on what Koyanagi told him to do and what he seems expected to do. And I like in the end, he chose to just hug her and let it be something that's him and for him. That, to me, made all the difference. I loved that. I thought that was really, really good. So yeah, and he's like, well, she's sober though, right? I have my own thing. I love that. I love that Hirotaka says, I do my own thing. Because I am not a PDA person at all. I'm like, I don't like public displays of affection like that. 'Cause sometimes it's just so awkward. And I'm like, you have your private time to do that, right? Holding hands is fine. I think holding hands is okay. But the people that are just, especially when you're in a group and two of them are just making out in front of you, you're like, want to talk about the weather or... So they finally reach the exit. He's like, it wasn't as bad as I thought, right? These two goons, absolute goons. And then he's like, you need to do a final check. I love that Kabakura gets into work mode around Narumi. I love that. I love that he's in work mode. I love how adorable it is. I love that he makes sure that she checks things. He's like, next time, Make sure you ride with someone who will hold your hand. Kabakura has come so far. Episodes 3 and 4, I didn't know what to think of Kabakura because he came off kind of aggressive and like hyper tsundere. And now I'm like, no, Kabakura is like my jam. I just like swoon. I could see why Hanako swoons for him. If in the real world, I would probably prefer, I don't know. I like Hirotaka a lot. Hirotaka has a lot of real world potential, but I do like Kabakura a lot too. So that's apples and oranges. Can we combine them together? And make one person? Is that even possible? Because I like aspects of both of them. I'm definitely more of a Narumi than I am Koyanagi. Maybe at work I'm more of a Koyanagi, but like in real life I'm definitely more of a Narumi for sure. And she's like, no worries, I'm not gonna ride this again for a long time. Girl, love it. So yeah, they leave them to it. And then I like to hear Hirotaka's like, thank you for today. And she's like, no problem. She's like, look at Hirotaka. He's starting to act more like a human these days. She's like, he's gotten cuter. I also love that as soon as she says he's gotten cuter, Kabakura's like, well, I got left alone. He's like, all being a grumbly little tsundere, which is so cute. And I love at the end, she's like, well, but you're the cutest. Which I think is important. She's like, Hirotaka's cute. He's getting cuter. He's getting some more human to him. But she's like, you're always the cutest. So I love that. Those two. He's like, what were you talking with them about? I love that he gets super jealous and she's like, aw, you thought that we were talking about anything problematic. Joke's on you. And then Narumi's talking about Kabakura getting scared. I really wanted him to like reach for her hand. And I love how quickly, as soon as she turns around, he's like, whoop. That part was really cute. He's like, nope. So again, I feel like Hirotaka wants to do things, but he also wants to go at his own pace, which is important. I love that. I think that's great. So good for them. But yeah, I love them both so much in this episode. And also, she is so considerate. She understands. She's like, he's like, you're always observing people, making sure they have fun. Also, if you notice, girl wore socks with her shoes and probably had Band-Aids on her blisters. I was just at a speech tournament with my team this last weekend, and one of my students, they were like, oh, I've got such blisters, my feet hurt. And they had blisters on their heels from their shoes. And I'm like, you've got to put Band-Aids on them. You got to do that. You got to take time and do that before you like prep. No. So I like that Narumi gets on to Hirotaka being like, make sure you prep for things. And so Hirotaka has this conversation where he's like, well, I was leveling up in games. She was leveling up as a person and experiencing failures and having good times and getting hurt and crying and just growing up. And I like that he kind of in that moment feels like, he's like, I still feel like a kid because I've not been leveling up myself as a person. And he's noticing that she's been doing that. But the important thing is at the end, she's like, that's fine. I'm here for you to wait with you. It's okay. And he's like, my feet are in extreme pain. And she's like, your feet are bleeding. Why didn't you say anything? Exactly. Say something. Don't just sit there in pain. There's no reason for that. So I'm glad he finally asked the question of, do you enjoy being with me? And then I love when she says it won't work for us and she means the piggy bank. I'm like, yes. And I think that's telling. When his heart like starts racing and he gets worried, being like, oh, it's not going to work. That's when you know you are invested in that relationship. You're invested in that relationship if you don't want it to end. And she doesn't want it to end either, but she's like, us not being ourselves, this is dumb. This is stupid. Let's stop this. Let's just be ourselves, okay? I love that. That might be the thumbnail too, is her making him kiss the piggy bank. That's super cute. She's like, haven't you had enough? She's like, we're so nervous. I love that he's like, oh, that's what she meant. She's like, we're so nervous. We can't talk at all. Let's end it. And he's like, I was scared for a moment. He's like, then we're done. She's like, oh my God, let's talk about the anime. I've been waiting for so long. I love it. And I love that when he says it first, he's like, she's more disappointing. Because I think he was expecting her to like be this. He's like, I thought she'd become this like, I think what he was expecting was that the way she is around him is just because they're friends. And if she's in girlfriend mode, she's going to act more like a stereotypical girlfriend. But then when he sees that that's not what she wants to be, he's like, oh, so is that, is she not going to be like a girlfriend around me? But the thing is, he says, well, she's having fun though, and she's enjoying it. So it's not a bad thing. And then he kind of thinks back on Koyanagi's words. And he's like, I'm so simple. I guess I'm okay with having everything just normal for now. I don't think it's bad that Hirotaka's simple. I think that's fine. And Narumi likes him for who he is. And just as he accepts that we're just going to go slow, keep it simple, and that's okay, she gives him the gift. Again, I am like Narumi. I'd be like, here you go. It's nothing. It's nothing big. No, we're good. Everything's fine. And he's just like my mother. My mother opens and like shakes the gifts and opens them to try to see what they are. And it's like, no. But he ends up opening it and it's a pair of earrings. And they match hers, which I was like, yes. And she says, that part of you that wanted to grow up fast, that part of you that I've never seen before. That's the sign that she's like, look, I want to know, I want to know parts of you that you've not shown me. That shows she's invested. That's her investment. She wants to know parts of him that the friend side hasn't seen. And that's what kind of gets him like, oh, and she's like, well, you're already an adult now, so. And she's like, I have a mirror, and that's when he noticed she's wearing the same ones. And he's like, well, when did you pierce your earrings? And she's like, oh, they're clip-ons, but, I just wanted to, I have different colors so like we could match and stuff. And honestly, hearing Hirotaka laugh it's so cute. I don't think we've heard him laugh in this very much before, so it was adorable. And he's like, that was really thoughtful of you. I bet you think I'm childish. And he's like, yes, there were things you could have done wrong. And I thought he was going to kiss her. I was like, are we going to get that? But no, they did a freaking Nozaki-kun style bait and switch. I was like, But the hug is cute. The hug is cute. And I think for Hirotaka, the hug means a lot because he's not as comfortable with the kiss. So the hug is really more of them like having this moment and being able to kind of like, I love it because this is more at his speed and it's what he wants and she doesn't push for the kiss. I think that Narumi, because she has more experience dating, is about letting Hirotaka kind of take the lead in that regard. Like we've never heard Narumi complain about things not being at her speed or not being at the speed she wants them to be or about wanting him to be more affectionate. Like she's fine with the way that it is because it works so well for them. And she's fine with letting him kind of take the lead on it. Like she was totally fine with the hug and I think she would have been totally fine with the kiss. And then he's like, thank you, I will treasure these. And then he says, I'm pretty childish too. I love that because I think part of him laughing in that moment at her was because he saw himself in that moment being like, yeah, I can be childish, but so can you. And we both make it work. And that's what's so great about it. And I'm like, oh. I love his expression as he looks there. And then she tries to help him put on the earrings. And he's like, I thought nothing had changed, but it has. Little by little, things are changing at our own pace. Yes, that's what I love, is him realizing that we don't have to try to fit the mold these other couples have fit. We can be ourselves and go at our own pace, and that's okay. And I think a lot of couples need to hear that because I think we see online what a relationship should look like, but it's not a one size fits all for everybody. It really isn't. And he's like, I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, just let it evolve naturally. Of course, he's like, they closed up. I'm glad that with them closing up, I'm glad that she didn't actually get her ears pierced. They were just clip-ons. So then she wouldn't have to worry about, oh, I got my ears pierced. Now they can just not wear their earrings together. This ED was so cute. The ones of them, I love her with the little fox ears and the bow and him with the Mad Hatter and the sunglasses on like the magician. That's super cute. I love the alien and cat glasses that Kabakura and Koyanagi are wearing. That's super cute. I loved the guys' fashion. The guys' fashion, it just fits them. It just fits them really well. Same with Same with Koyanagi. I do like a cardigan, but I can't do the really long cardigans. And the gaucho pants, I don't know. If it's not a mid-length skirt, I just want the pants to like hit the floor. I don't know if I can do like the floodwaters and all of that, but yeah, I just love the shots of them. I thought the CD was super cute of them on the day, and the animation was gorgeous. It looks so sweet. And then he's like, go buy some souvenirs, and she's like, God, Hirotaka. I love that she's just like, yes, give me this. I'm going to be so proud. I hope she shares it with him because, you know, he put some in that. So he deserves a little bit of it. But this was such a cute episode. This was such a cute episode. And I honestly, last week was a little bit afraid that we'd go into Angst Town with this episode of them being like, oh, well, we can't be. So when she said this isn't going to work, I was like, are there going to be palm trees swaying in the background? Are we going to have like, is this going to be really like an angsty lead into episode 10? But it wasn't. It was actually, they worked it out. And I am so excited about that for them. So this series is so fun and whimsical. I just have so much fun with it. So I can't wait to see where the series goes from here. So in any case, I am excited to hear your comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion and all my rambles, but I also hope you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm going to be back real soon with some more reactions to Wotakoi, Love is Harder for an Otaku. And I'll see you there. Bye.